Ready? Chapter 63. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura. When the 4 months of the rainy season passed, and Aniruddha had still not returned home, all the members of the Yadu family became much perturbed. They could not understand how the boy was missing. Fortunately, one day, the great sage Narada came and informed the family about Aniruddha's disappearance from the palace. He explained how Aniruddha had been carried to the city of Shonitapura, the capital of Banasura's empire, and how Banasura had arrested him with the Naga Pasha, even though Aniruddha had defeated his soldiers. This news was given in detail to Narada, and the whole story was disclosed. Then the members of the Yadu dynasty, all of whom had great affection for Krishna, prepared to attack the city of Shonitapur. Practically all the leaders of the family, including Pradyumna, Satyaki, Gada, Samba, Sarana, Nanda, Upananda, and Bhadra, combined together and gathered 12 Akshohini military divisions into phalanxes. Then they all went to Shonitapura and surrounded it with soldiers, elephants, horses, and chariots. Banasura heard that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty were attacking the whole city, tearing down various walls, gates, and nearby gardens. Becoming very angry, he immediately ordered his soldiers, who were of equal caliber, to go and face them. Lord Shiva was so kind to Banasura that he personally came as the commander-in-chief of the military force, assisted by his heroic sons Kartikeya and Ganapati. Nandishvara, Lord Shiva, seated on his favorite bull, led the fighting against Lord Krishna and Balarama. We can simply imagine how fierce the fighting was. Lord Shiva with his valiant sons on one side, and Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his elder brother Sri Balaram Ji on the other. The fighting was so fierce that those who saw the battle were struck with wonder, and the hairs on their bodies stood up. Lord Shiva was engaged in fighting directly with Lord Krishna. Pradyumna was engaged with Kartikeya, and Lord Balaram was engaged with Banasura's commander-in-chief Kumbhanda, who was assisted by Kupakarna. Samba, the son of Krishna, fought the son of Banasura, and Banasura fought Satyaki, commander-in-chief of the Yadu dynasty. In this way, the fighting was waged. News of the fighting. The devotees on the porch. Out front. News of the fighting spread all over the universe. Demigods such as Lord Brahma from higher planetary systems, along with the great sages and saintly persons, Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, all being very curious to see the fight between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna and their assistants, hovered over the battlefield in their airplanes. Lord Lord Shiva is called Bhutanatha because he is assisted by various types of powerful ghosts and denizens of the inferno. Bhutas, Pretas, Pramathas, Guyakas, Dakinis, Pishachas, Kushmandas, Vetalas, Vinayakas, and Brahmarakshasas. Of all kinds of ghosts, the Brahmarakshasas are the most powerful. They are Brahmanas who, after death, have entered the ghostly species of life. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, simply drove all these ghosts away from the battlefield with the arrows from his celebrated bow Sharinga Dhanur. Lord Shiva then began to release all his selected weapons against the personality of Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, without any difficulty, counteracted all these weapons with counter weapons. He counteracted the Brahmastra, similar to the atomic bomb, with another Brahmastra, and an air weapon with a mountain weapon. When Lord Shiva released a particular weapon bringing about a violent hurricane on the battlefield, Lord Krishna presented just the opposing element, a mountain weapon, which checked the hurricane on the spot. Similarly, when Lord Shiva released his weapon of devastating fire, Krishna counteracted it with torrents of rain. At last, when Lord Shiva released his personal weapon, the Pashupatastra, Krishna immediately counteracted it with the Narayana Astra. Lord Shiva then became exasperated in fighting with Lord Krishna. Krishna then took the opportunity to release his yawning weapon. When this weapon is released, the opposing party becomes tired, stops fighting, and begins to yawn. Consequently, Lord Shiva became so fatigued that he refused to fight anymore and began yawning. Krishna was now able to turn his attention from the attack of Lord Shiva to the efforts of Banasura, and he began to kill Banasura's personal soldiers with swords and clubs. Meanwhile, Lord Krishna's son Pradumna was fighting fiercely with Kartikeya, the commander-in-chief of the demigods. Kartikeya was wounded and his body was bleeding profusely. In this condition, he left the battlefield and without fighting anymore rode away on the back of his peacock carrier. Similarly, Lord Balaram smashed Banasura's commander-in-chief, Kumbhanda, with the strokes of his club. Kupakarna was also wounded in this way, and both he and Kumbhanda fell on the battlefield, Kumbhanda being fatally wounded. Without guidance, all of Banasura's soldiers scattered here and there. When Banasura saw that his soldiers and commanders had been defeated, his anger only increased. He thought it wise to stop fighting with Satyaki, Krishna's commander-in-chief, and instead directly attack Lord Krishna. Now having the opportunity to use his 1,000 arms, he rushed towards Krishna, simultaneously working 500 bows and 2,000 arrows. Such a foolish person could never measure Krishna's strength. Immediately, without difficulty, Krishna cut each of Banasura's bows into 2 pieces, and to check him from going further, made the horses of his chariot lie on the ground so that the chariot broke to pieces. After doing this, Krishna blew his conch shell, Panchajanya. There is a demigoddess named Kotara who was worshipped by Banasura, and their relationship was as mother and son. Mother Kotara was upset that Banasura's life was in danger, so she appeared on the scene. With naked body and scattered hair, she stood before Lord Krishna. Shri Krishna did not like the sight of this naked woman, and to avoid seeing her, he turned his face. Banasura, getting this chance to escape Krishna's attack, left the battlefield. All the strings of his bow had been broken, and there was no chariot or driver, so he had no alternative but to return to his city. He lost everything in the battle. Being greatly harassed by the arrows of Lord of Krishna, all the associates of Lord Shiva, the hobgoblins and ghostly bhutas, pretas, and kshatriyas left the battlefield. Lord Shiva then took to his last resort. He released his greatest death weapon, known as the Shiva Jvara, which destroys by excessive heat. It is said that at the end of creation, the sun becomes 12 times more scorching than usual. This 12 times hotter temperature is called Shiva Jvara. When the Shiva Jvara personified was released, he had 3 heads and 3 legs, and as he came towards Krishna, it appeared that he was burning everything to ashes. He was so powerful that he made blazing fire appear in all directions, and Krishna observed that he was specifically coming towards him. As there is a Shiva Jvara weapon, there is also a Narayana Jvara weapon, which is represented by excessive cold. When there is excessive heat, one can somehow or other tolerate it, but when there is excessive cold, everything collapses. This is actually experienced by a person at the time of death. At the time of death, the temperature of the body first of all increases to 107 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the whole body collapses and immediately becomes as cold as ice. To counteract the scorching heat of the Shiva Jvara, there is no other weapon but the Narayana Jvara. Therefore, when Lord Krishna saw that the Shiva Jvara had been released by Lord Shiva, he had no recourse other than to release the Narayana Jvara. Lord Sri Krishna is the original Narayana and the controller of the Narayana Jvara weapon. When the Narayana Jvara weapon was released, there was a great fight between the 2 Jvaras. When excessive heat is counteracted by extreme cold, it is natural for the hot temperature to gradually reduce, and this is what occurred in the fight between the Shiva Jvara and the Narayana Jvara. Gradually, the Shiva Jvara's temperature diminished, and the Shiva Jvara began to cry for help from Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva was unable to help him in the presence of the Narayana Jvara. Unable to get any help from Lord Shiva, the Shiva Jvara could understand that he had no means of escape outside of surrendering unto Narayana, Lord Krishna himself. Lord Shiva, the greatest of the demigods, could not help him, what to speak of the lesser demigods, and therefore the Shiva Jvara ultimately surrendered unto Krishna, bowing before him and offering a prayer so that the Lord might be pleased and give him protection. This incident of the fight between the ultimate weapons of Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna proves that if Krishna gives someone protection, no one can kill him, and if Krishna does not give one protection, no one can save him. Lord Shiva is called Mahadeva, the greatest of all the demigods, although sometimes Lord Brahma is considered the greatest of all the demigods because he can create. However, Lord Shiva can annihilate the creations of Brahma. Still, both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva act only in one capacity. Lord Brahma can create, Lord Shiva can annihilate. But neither of them can maintain. Lord Vishnu, however, not only maintains but creates and annihilates also. Factually, the creation is not affected by Brahma, because Brahma himself is created by Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva is created or born of Brahma. The Shiva Jwara thus understood that without Krishna or Narayana, no one could help him. He therefore rightly took shelter of Lord Krishna and with folded hands began to pray as follows. My dear Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you have unlimited potencies. No one can surpass your potencies, and thus you are the Lord of everyone. Generally, people consider Lord Shiva the most powerful personality in the material world. But Lord Shiva is not all powerful. You are all powerful. This is factual. You are the original consciousness or knowledge. Without knowledge or consciousness, nothing can be powerful. A material thing may be very powerful, but without the touch of consciousness, it cannot act. A material machine may be gigantic and wonderful, but without the touch of someone conscious and in knowledge, the material machine is useless for all purposes. My Lord, you are complete knowledge, and there is not a pinch of material contamination in your personality. Lord Shiva may be a powerful demigod because of his specific power to annihilate the whole creation, and similarly, Lord Brahma may be very powerful because he can create the entire universe, but actually neither Brahma nor Lord Shiva is the original cause of this cosmic manifestation. You are the absolute truth, the supreme Brahman, and you are the original cause. The original cause of the cosmic manifestation is not the impersonal Brahman effulgence. That impersonal Brahman effulgence rests on your personality. Unquote. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, the cause of the impersonal Brahman is Lord Krishna. This Brahman effulgence is likened to the sunshine which emanates from the sun globe. Therefore, impersonal Brahman is not the ultimate cause. The ultimate cause of everything is the supreme eternal form of Krishna. All material creation, actions and reactions take place in the impersonal Brahman. But in the personal Brahman, the eternal form of Krishna, there is no action and reaction. The Shiva Jwara continued. Therefore, my Lord, your body is completely peaceful, completely blissful, and devoid of material contamination. In the material body, there are actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. The time factor is the most important element above all others, because the material manifestation is affected by the agitation of time. Thus, natural phenomena come into existence, and as soon as phenomena appear, fruitive activities are visible. As the result of these fruitive activities, a living entity takes his form. He acquires a particular nature packed up in a subtle body and gross body formed by the life air, the ego, the 10 sense organs, the mind, and the 5 gross elements. These then create the type of body which later becomes the root cause of various other bodies, which are acquired one after another by means of the transmigration of the soul. All these phenomenal manifestations are the combined combined actions of your material energy. You, however, are the cause of this external energy, and thus you remain unaffected by the action and reaction of the different elements. And because you are transcendental to such compulsions of material energy, you are the supreme tranquility. You are the last word in freedom from material contamination. I therefore take shelter at your lotus feet, giving up all other shelter. My dear Lord, your appearance as the son of Vasudeva in your role as a human being is one of the pastimes of your complete freedom. The benefit your devotees, to benefit your devotees and vanquish the non-devotees, you appear in multi-incarnations. All incarnations descend in fulfillment of your promise in the Bhagavad Gita that you appear as soon as there are discrepancies in the system of progressive life. When there are disturbances by irregular principles, my dear Lord, you appear by your internal potency. Your main business is to protect and maintain the demigods and spiritually inclined persons, and to maintain the standard of material law and order. Considering your mission of maintaining such law and order, your violence towards the miscreants and demons is quite befitting. This is not the first time you have incarnated. It is to be understood that you have done so many, many times before. My dear Lord, I beg to submit that I have been very greatly chastised by the release of your Narayana Jvara, which is certainly very cooling, yet at the same time very severely dangerous and unbearable for all of us. My dear Lord, as long as one is forgetful of Krishna consciousness, driven by the spell of material desires, and ignorant of the ultimate shelter at your lotus feet, one who has accepted this material body becomes disturbed by the three miserable conditions of material nature. Because one does not surrender unto you, he continues to suffer perpetually. After hearing the Shivajvara, Lord Krishna replied, O three-headed one, I am pleased with your statement. Be assured that there will be no more suffering for you from the Narayana Jvara. Not only are you now free from fear of the Narayana Jvara, but anyone in the future who simply recollects this fight between you and the Narayana Jvara will also be freed from all kinds of fear. After hearing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Shiva Jvara offered respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet and left. In the meantime, Banasura somehow or other recovered from his setbacks and, with rejuvenated energy, returned to fight. This time Banasura appeared before Lord Krishna, who was seated on his chariot with different kinds of weapons in his 1,000 hands. Very much agitated, Banasura splashed his different weapons upon the body of Lord Krishna like torrents of rain. When Lord Krishna saw the weapons of Banasura coming at him like water coming out of a strainer, he took his sharp-edged Sudarshana disc and began to cut off the demon's 1,000 arms, one after another, just as a gardener trims the twigs of a tree with sharp cutters. When Lord Shiva saw that his devotee Banasura could not be saved even in his presence, he came to his senses and personally came before Lord Krishna and began to pacify him by offering the following prayers. Lord Shiva said, My dear Lord, you are the worshipable object of the Vedic hymns. One who does not know you considers the impersonal Brahma Jyotir to be the ultimate supreme absolute truth, without knowledge that you exist behind your spiritual effulgence in your eternal abode. My dear Lord, you are therefore called Parabrahman. Indeed, the words Param Brahman have been used in the Bhagavad Gita to identify you. Saintly persons who have completely cleansed their hearts of all material contamination can realize your transcendental form, although you are all pervading like the sky, unaffected by any material thing. Only the devotee can realize you and no one else. In the impersonalist's conception of your supreme existence, the sky is just like your yes, navel. Sorry. The sky is just like your navel. Fire is your mouth, and water is your semen. The heavenly planets are your head, all the directions are your ears. The earth, Urvi, is your lotus feet. The moon is your mind, and the sun is your eye. As far as I am concerned, I act as your ego. The ocean is your abdomen, and the king of heaven, Indra, is your arm. Trees and plants are the hairs on your body, the clouds are the hair on your head, and Lord Brahma is your intelligence. All the great progenitors, known as Prajapatis, are your symbolic representatives, and religion is your heart. The impersonal feature of your supreme body is conceived of in this way, but you are ultimately the supreme person. The impersonal feature of your supreme body is only a small expansion of your energy. You are likened to the original fire, and your expansions are its light and heat. Lord Shiva continued, My dear Lord, since you are manifested universally, the different parts of the universe are the different parts of your body, and by your inconceivable potency, you can simultaneously be both localized and universal. In the Brahma Samhita, we also find it stated that although you always remain in your abode, Goloka Vrindavana, you are present everywhere. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, you appear in order to protect the devotees, and thus your appearance indicates good fortune for all the universe. All of the demigods are directing different affairs of the universe by your grace only. Thus, the seven upper planetary systems are maintained by your grace. At the end of this creation, all manifestations of your energies, whether in the shape of demigods, human beings, or lower animals, enter into you, and all immediate and remote causes of the cosmic manifestation rest in you without distinctive features of existence. Ultimately, there is no possibility of distinction between you and any other thing on an equal level with you or subordinate to you. You are simultaneously the cause of this cosmic manifestation and its ingredients as well. You are the supreme whole, one without a second. In the phenomenal manifestation, there are three stages: the stage of consciousness, the stage of semi consciousness in dreaming, and the stage of unconsciousness. But your Lordship is transcendental to all these different material stages of existence. You exist, therefore, in a fourth dimension, and your appearance and disappearance do not depend on anything beyond yourself. You are the supreme cause of everything, but of you there is no cause. You yourself cause your own appearance and disappearance. Despite your transcendental position, my Lord, in order to show your six opulences and advertise your transcendental qualities, you have appeared in your different incarnations: fish, tortoise, boar, Nrsimha, Keshava, and others, by your personal manifestation, and you have appeared as different living entities by your separated manifestations. By your internal potency, you appear as the different incarnations of Vishnu, and by your external potency, you appear as the phenomenal world. On a cloudy day, to the common man's eyes, the sun appears to be covered. But the fact is that because the sunshine creates the cloud, the sun can never actually be covered, even though the whole sky may be cloudy, even though the whole sky may be cloudy. Similarly, less intelligent men claim that there is no God, but when the manifestation of different living entities and their activities is visible, enlightened persons see you present in every atom through the medium of your external and marginal energies. Your your unlimitedly potent activities are experienced by the most enlightened devotees, but those who are bewildered by the spell of your external energy identify themselves with this material world and become attached to society, friendship, and love. Thus, they embrace the threefold miseries of material existence and are subjected to the dualities of pain and pleasure, sometimes drowning in the ocean of attachment and sometimes being taken out of it. My dear Lord, only by your mercy and grace can the living entity get the human form of life, which is a chance to get out of the miserable condition of material existence. However, a person who possesses a human body but who cannot bring his senses under control is carried away by the waves of sensual enjoyment. As such, he cannot take shelter of your lotus feet and thus engage in your devotional service. The life of such a person is very unfortunate, and anyone living such a life of darkness is certainly cheating himself and thus cheating others also. Therefore, human society without Krishna consciousness is a society of cheaters and the cheated. My Lord, you are actually the dearmost supersoul of all living entities and the supreme controller of everything. The human being who is always illusioned is afraid of ultimate death. A man who is simply attached to sensual enjoyment voluntarily accepts the miserable material existence and thus wanders after the will-o'-the-wisp of sense pleasure. He is certainly the most foolish man, for he drinks poison and puts aside the nectar. My dear Lord, all the demigods, including myself and Lord Brahma, as well as great saintly persons and sages who have cleansed their hearts of material attachment, have, by your grace, wholeheartedly taken shelter of your lotus feet. We have all taken shelter of you because we have accepted you as the Supreme Lord and the dearmost life and soul of all of us. You are the original cause of this cosmic manifestation. You are its supreme maintainer, and you are the cause of its dissolution also. You are equal to everyone, the most peaceful supreme friend of every living entity. You are the supreme worshipable object of every one of us. My dear Lord, let us always be engaged in your transcendental loving service so that we may get free from this material entanglement. Finally, my Lord, I may inform you that this Banasura is very dear to me. He has rendered valuable service unto me. Therefore, I want to see him always happy. Being pleased with him, I have assured him safety. I pray to you, my Lord, that as you were pleased with his forefathers, King Prahlada and Bali Maharaj, you will also be pleased with him. After hearing Lord Shiva's prayers, Lord Krishna replied, My dear Lord Shiva, I accept your statements and I also accept your desire for Banasura. I know that this Banasura is the son of Bali Maharaj, and as such I cannot kill him, for that is my promise. I gave a benediction to King Prahlad that the demons who would appear in his family would never be killed by me. Therefore, without killing this Banasura, I have simply cut off his arms to deprive him of his false prestige. The large number of soldiers he was maintaining became a burden on this earth, and I have killed them all to minimize the burden. Now he has 4 remaining arms, and he will remain immortal, unaffected by material pains and pleasures. I know that he is one of the chief devotees of your lordship, so you can now rest assured that henceforward he need have no fear of anything. When Banasura was blessed by Lord Krishna in this way, he came before the Lord and bowed down before him, touching his head to the earth. Banasura immediately arranged to have his daughter Usha seated with Aniruddha on a nice chariot, and then he presented them before Lord Krishna. After this, Lord Krishna took charge of Aniruddha and Usha, who had become very opulent materially because of the blessings of Lord Shiva. Thus, keeping forward a division of 1 Akshauhini of soldiers, Krishna proceeded toward Dwarka. In the meantime, all the people of Dwarka, having received the news that Lord Krishna was returning with Aniruddha and Usha in great opulence, decorated every corner of the city with flags, festoons, and garlands. All the big roads and crossings were carefully cleansed and sprinkled with sandalwood pulp mixed with water. Everywhere was the fragrance of sandalwood. All the citizens joined with their friends and relatives to welcome Lord Krishna with great pomp and jubilation, and a tumultuous vibration of conch shells, drums, and bugles received the Lord. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, entered his capital, Dwaraka. Shukadev Goswami assured King Parikshit that the narration of the fight between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna is not at all inauspicious like ordinary fights. On the contrary, if one remembers in the morning the narration of this fight between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva and takes pleasure in the victory of Lord Krishna, he will never experience defeat anywhere in his struggle of life. This episode of Banasura's fighting with Krishna and later being saved by the grace of Lord Shiva is confirmation of the statement in the Bhagavad Gita that the worshippers of demigods cannot achieve any benediction without its being sanctioned by the Supreme Lord Krishna. Here in this narration, we find that although Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, when he faced death by Krishna, Lord Shiva was not able to save him. But Lord Shiva appealed to Krishna to save his devotee, and this was sanctioned by the Lord. This is the position of Lord Krishna. The exact words used in this connection in the Bhagavad Gita are Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. This means that without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, no demigod can award any benediction to his worshipper. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 63rd chapter of Krishna. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura.
Thank you very much. Om Ghana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Koda Mahyam Tadhati Sapadantikam Pandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitam Stam Sijitam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lolita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Panchako Patarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So now we continue with the story of Usha and Aniruddha, which develops into this great fight between the Yadu dynasty and the forces of Banasura. The Narad Muni, of course, informed the Yadavas about what had happened to Aniruddha. They, in turn, launched an attack on Banasura's capital, Shonitpur, and the allies lined up Lord Shiva and his sons and companions, the ghosts and hobgoblins and so on, were on one side, and on the other side, Lord Krishna and Balaram and Pradumna and others. So the sort of blow by blow is given here. The Krishna's fighting is particularly described in this kind of fighting with divine weapons. The expertise involves knowing which weapon to invoke to counteract the weapon launched by one's opponent. So if there's a hurricane launched, then you use your mountain weapon, which stops the hurricane. And what was the other example? The Brahmastra, of course, by another Brahmastra. And in this way, the fighting goes on. So Krishna was expert. This is one of his 64 qualities. He's expert, and I think this is invoked, in fact, as an example, his ability to counteract each weapon with an appropriate counter weapon. So the Lord Shiva invoked his Astra, his Pashupat Astra, and Krishna the Narayana Astra. Then the yawning weapon was invoked. And then Banasura directly attacked Lord Krishna. And Krishna began defeating him, cutting his bowstring and so on. And then this Kotara appeared on the battlefield, essentially a distraction, saving Banasura, a naked demigoddess, and Krishna didn't want to see her. So he turned away, and that was the opportunity for Banasura to escape the attack. So then the Lord Shiva invoked his Shiva Jwara weapon. Jwara means fever. So Lord Shiva's weapon, the Shiva Jwara, involves extreme heat. But Lord Krishna responded with the Narayan Jwara weapon, extreme cold. And the extreme cold, what's the word? Subdued. Vanquished the extreme heat. And so finally the Shiva Jwara weapon had no means to escape but to surrender to Krishna. And of course he offered prayers to the Lord, accepting that Krishna, Lord Shiva, is not all-powerful. Krishna is all-powerful. Material things can't act without the touch of consciousness, and similarly, nothing can act without the potency of Krishna. Lord Brahma and Shiva are powerful, but Krishna is more powerful. He empowers them. They will only create and destroy, respectively, but Lord Vishnu, Krishna, maintains, destroys, and creates everything. Everything rests on the impersonal effulgence. That effulgence is also an emanation from Krishna. And much more here in these prayers concerning the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Krishna accepted the prayers of the Shiva Jwara and said that anyone who even remembers this fight between you and Narayan Jwara will be freed from all fear. And now Banasura makes a comeback. Somehow or other he was able to recover, and he began attacking with Krishna with various weapons. So Krishna just began shaving off his arms with his Sudarshan chakra, just as a gardener trims the twigs of a tree with cutters. So then Banasura came to his senses, and he also surrendered and offered the Lord prayers. He describes the impersonal feature of the Lord, essentially the universal form, and it confirms everything is going on by the power of Krishna. Hard to summarize this long philosophical passages, but they're full of, they're not really meant to be summarized, they're meant to be opened up further. Prabhupada's already giving the summary, but all of these originally verses could be discussed in great detail. And finally, Lord Shiva says that this Banasura is very dear to him. He's a devotee of Lord Shiva. So please spare him. He's also the son of Bali Maharaj, and grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. So please be kind to him. So the Lord agreed. He accepted the prayers of Lord Shiva and his statements. And he agreed to spare the life of Banasura. He said, I made that promise to Bali, not to kill your demon descendants. And Srila Sanatana Goswami comments in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that in essence, Lord Krishna gave Banasura Swarupya Mukti. Swarupya Mukti means to get a form like that of the Lord. So the Lord shaved off 9,996 of the demon's arms and left him 4 arms like Narayan. So he got and promised him immortality. So because Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, by the grace of Lord Shiva, he got the blessings of the mercy of Lord Narayan. So then he, after being blessed by the Lord, he brought forth Usha and Aniruddha, and they entered the city of Dwarka triumphantly, and all's well that ends well. Anyone who remembers this fight between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna will never experience defeat anywhere in his struggle in life. All right, any comments or questions? Krishna, 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 hey. Mm-hmm.
It was written here that in the impersonal feature of absolute truth, action and reactions of this material world take place. And in the personal feature, there is no action and reaction take place.
Is that right? Let's go back and see what's said about actions and reactions and the personal and impersonal features. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, that's what it says.
So, ultimate understanding of absolute truth is that yad jnanam advayam. That means both are same. So by this we get that both are two different things. So how to understand this, Maharaj?
Well, they are identical, and yet everything's identical with the absolute truth, yet there are differences also. In the Brahmajyoti, you're not going to have the loving dealings that you have in Goloka Vrindavan, even though the impersonal absolute is identical with the personal absolute. So there's oneness and there's difference there also. You have a phone with that verse about the material actions and reactions? Better yet, even if you have Baladev Vishwanath, but at least if you have, you can call up the verse for me. Yes. So there's oneness, but there's difference. It's not that the material cosmic manifestation in which repeated birth and death take place is non-different from the spiritual sky, where there's no birth and death. So they're the same, but they're different.
They are same in what sense?
Same as the Parasha Brahmana Shakti, it's all Krishna's energy. Sarvakalavidam Brahma, actually, everything is Brahma, there's nothing other than Brahman. The material energy is also Brahman, only in a covered form. So there it's, from one angle, absolute angle of vision, material energy is also non-different from the spiritual sky. But on the other hand, there is a perceived difference. Is that okay?
Yes.
Hmm. Hmm? Oh, this verse about material actions in Shivajwar's prayers concerning the personal and impersonal. I wonder what other questions might be bubbling up today. Yes. I think you have to switch it on.
Haribol. Okay, Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisance to you. My question is, the followers of Shiva who think that Shiva is the absolute truth.
The
some of
followers of Lord Shiva who what? You have to hold the microphone closer.
there are some followers of Shiva that think that Shiva is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
Do they accept these stories, or they say that this is?
I wouldn't suppose so.
So, what they will say if they
Just
heard
like
this?
you know anyway, I wouldn't suppose that they accept it. But we don't care if they accept it or not.
How can we speak to them about this? How can we speak to them about this point? What are our arguments?
Is it much of an issue? Do you really run up against devotees of Lord Shiva who are, or is this just theoretical?
No, but sometimes people ask me when I say Krishna is the Supreme Personality, and they say, but if I go to followers of Shiva in Himalayas, they will say...
It's not a question of followers of this, followers of that. We're following Bhagavad Gita. I have my opinion, you have your opinion, the next man has his opinion. But we're following Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is accepted by all the acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Shankaracharya. So according to the Bhagavad Gita, Ahamadiri Devanam, Krishna is the source of all the demigods, all other gods. Mataparataram Nanyadas Kinchidastija, no one's higher to Krishna than Krishna. No one's equal to Krishna. And so many other places. So it's not my sentiment, your sentiment. I'm a Shiva lover, so I favor Shiva. You're a Krishna lover, you favor Krishna. No, we're going by Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. They reinterpret it. So they say when Krishna attacks, Shiva just yawns because he's not even bothered by it. So instead of the yawning weapon, so there's no point. So you just send them to Jiva Goswami and tell them to read just tell them to read Jiva Goswami, because otherwise you get into a discussion on semantics, like Sanskrit semantics, and it just becomes a rabbit hole. So just don't bother with it. Hare Krishna.
Something else? Yes.
Can I ask something about yesterday class? Yesterday, from the reading, you mentioned something like, so when we read about Usha and Aniruddha's story, you said when one receives service, one should reciprocate. So that when one receives service, one should reciprocate the
when
service.
one receives service, one should reciprocate. Yes.
That's the beginning of the end. You said something
Yeah.
like this as as a joke.
It's there in Bhagavatam, maybe it's third canto someplace, that when a woman comes and offers you service, you should be very careful. Because in that way one becomes entangled. One, the woman comes and doesn't come and say, listen, I want you to support me for the rest of your life. I want you to work 8 hours a day for me. I want you to give me this many children and this many saris and this many bangles and when I complain every day, I want you to sympathize and say that's all right and that's how I want you to spend the rest of your life. No, I just want to serve you. Here I brought you a birthday gift. Here I brought you this. I brought you that. So when a man accepts the service, then okay, now he's in. Now he has to reciprocate, and so then she offers more service. That's described. Usha was serving Aniruddha, so Aniruddha just became not carried away. What's the word? Oblivious of the passage of time. This is powerful. When a woman offers service, then if the man accepts, now he's, what's the word? He's voluntarily entered under a mystic spell. I'd read this in third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So just to cite my personal experience, that was my advantage actually, that I could read all the books before they were published because I was editing them. So I'd read third canto. I was working at the press, and we had one god sister who was working in the press also, and she was also doing pujari work. So every afternoon she would do the 4 o'clock offering, 4 o'clock arti, and then she would come to the press and bring me a nice big cup full of fruits and sweets and so on from the 4 o'clock offering. And I would distribute the whole thing.
But Maharaj, can you expand that to a general case? If one is not able to reciprocate that service, then what's gonna happen?
If one is not able to reciprocate the service, then
and what happens?
Then what happens? All hell breaks loose. Well, typically then what happens?
I mean, not just men and women, but in general case, if one is not...
Well, in the general case, one has a debt. And when there's a debt and you don't pay, then it goes against your record. So we go through life, that's mentioned, Devarshi Bhutaptra Nunam Patrinam. We have a debt to the demigods. They're supplying air, they're supplying light, they're supplying water, they're supplying everything we need. So every one of us is indebted to the demigods. we're indebted to the rishis, the sages. They've provided us books of knowledge, mundane knowledge, spiritual knowledge. So we're indebted to them. Devarshi Bhuta. There are other living entities. Our dog brings us our newspaper, or other pets or domestic animals are rendering service. We have a debt to them. Or other living beings who help us in one way or another. We have a debt to our relatives. They help us. But to our forefathers, to whom we owe our existence and our sometimes our inheritance, and so much we've gotten from our forefathers. So we're indebted to them. We're indebted to our parents. It says, what is that one? Repays the debt to the rishis by Vedic study. One repays the debt to the parents by having children. And one third debt, what was that? Demigods by sacrifice, I think. So we have to repay all these debts. If you don't pay, what is that? Yobungte stain avasa. If we just enjoy our life as if we were debt-free, sooner or later it catches up with us. Somebody comes and says, I'm sorry, we're taking away your house, or you're going to jail, or whatever it is. Because we've neglected, we thought, well, I could just skip out, take the money and run. No, you borrowed it. So everything we've gotten is by the grace of these persons to whom we're now indebted. But nakinkaram, if one takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all his debts are discharged. Otherwise, we're indebted, we have to pay. And if we don't, then we'll be punished by the laws of nature. We're already being punished by the laws of nature, and we'll be further beaten up by the laws of nature if we don't, if we act like thieves and don't pay. That's the broader application, not just men and women, but we accept service, essentially, benefits, and we don't acknowledge them, then we're punished for our ingratitude. Unless we surrender to Krishna, then by serving Krishna, Krishna Bhakti Koilo Sarva Karma Kato, and then everything else is done. Not Kinkaram, Nayam, Vinay, Narajan. Then we're no longer debtors. All debts taken care of. Like, you join the military and they say, we'll pay all your debts, you just join. Okay? Something else? Where are we here? Oh, we're good. Young.
Maharaj, sometimes we hear that sometimes when a devotee is practicing his Krishna consciousness, then material energy takes his test. Maya takes test.
Does what?
Maya take test of that.
Takes.
Test it.
Testing.
Yeah, test the devotee. So, suppose for example, a devotee finds a bag full of, let's say, money, then what should he is it considered to be as an arrangement by material energy, so that to take the test of that devotee, or it is an arrangement by Krishna so that that devotee can engage that money in?
You take it either way.
So which of them?
You just offer it to Krishna. That doesn't matter, is this given by Maya? Is this given by Krishna? You give it to Krishna, that's all. You don't have to think, is this, who put this here? Okay. Yes, behind you.
Hello. In Plato's Republic, Socrates argues against the use in mythology of battles among the gods for the idea that we shouldn't focus our mind on the disharmony of God. So I don't really know about this faith.
Socrates said we shouldn't focus our minds on these battles between gods because
it would break the harmony of the ideal city that is our soul.
It would break the harmony of the ideal
city, because it's in the Plato's Republic where the city represents the soul, and so if we think about the disharmony between the gods, so battles, then our internal harmony is broken.
Our internal harmony is broken. Well, that's Socrates' idea, but we don't agree with him. The explanation is that these battles between these battles in which Krishna is involved. Otherwise, he's right. Just to waste our time thinking about battles, whether between men or between gods, is a waste of our energy. Just distracts us from the real purpose of life. But when Krishna is involved, then all of these things become transcendental. Whether it's battles, or it's dancing, or it's anything. As soon as Krishna is involved, it's on the platform of absolute harmonious truth. So hearing about, like Krishna's, we hear about, boys and girls dancing, that's going to disrupt our focusing our consciousness on the absolute. It just puts us in some thinking about boys and girls and dancing. But when it's Krishna who's dancing, then that same thought about dancing brings us to the transcendental platform, because Krishna is transcendental. And the same with battles. Just to hear about World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, this war, that war, just fills our mind with junk. Or wars between demigods, same thing. But when Krishna is involved, it becomes transcendental. At Kurukshetra, why are we interested in a battlefield of Kurukshetra? It's because Krishna is there. If Krishna is not there, not interested. And if Krishna is there, then our consciousness is uplifted by hearing these things. Is that okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shall we have kirtan? I think kirtan time has come. And who is the kirtaniya today? Yeah? Okay, Pawan's appointing someone, looks like.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Time Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Vaishnavad Punamansa Pariprajaka Ashtotar Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Thank you all again for coming, and we'll continue tomorrow. We still have these award-winning books, Ecclesiastes, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Meaning of Life. And the update on Kadambakanda Maharaj's health, there's no significant change today. It's about the same. Some times of the day there's more energy, sometimes less. And the 2 hours of kirtan in the afternoon is going on since yesterday. And that's it. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.